P1-6 almost has symmetry. Anywhere we can identify symmetry, we're going to take advantage of it. So we're in millimeters. We have 60 millimeters on this side and 50 millimeters on this side. And if we do the math, we'll have 20 millimeters on this step and 20 millimeters on this step. So with symmetry, if I was to draw half of this and mirror it over, I would be able to get the full piece. So I'm going to try that, and we're going to look at breaking a relation and modifying it as we need to. So this is our metric part, and so with the symmetry front plane, we'll open the sketch, and this is one of those places that with symmetry I'm going to set a vertical center line. So under the pull down, center line. For construction, I'll make it infinite length, mainly so I don't run out of center line. And then we'll set it to the origin. So clicking on the origin, and then I'll accept the line. We'll kind of click out. If it's not in black and define, then I'll drag it away and drag it back to the origin, and that usually snaps it into to place. So the takeaway is that my relations aren't going to be permanent. If I need to delete one, I can remove it. If I need to modify it, I can remove it and replace it. Alright, so pick the origin, drag out some distance. We're going to draw half of body. So hopefully at this point you are comfortable enough with the sketching that we're just following those lines around however you want to get them in place. And then we can go right into the dimensions. Alright, so I'm going to do the vertical dimensions first. So we have 60, and notice again that it auto scales to the 60. It went up 20 millimeters, but nothing really changed. And so as long as our scale isn't too far off, or we didn't draw everything really short in the vertical and really long in the horizontal, we're going to have it's going to stay with a pretty decent scale. So 110 on the height, and then 80 to the notch, and then we have 20 on the edge, and we're going 50 to the interior. Okay, I'm leaving out the 40 in the center because I want to do a full dimension or a radial dimension. If this was going to be a revolve and we ended up with a diameter, we'd have radial and diameter dimensions, or a half dimension and a full dimension. So in this case, I don't want to pick on the line because that's just going to give me that linear distance from the center line over to the edge. If I pick this vertical line and the center line, then I'm going to be able to apply that linear dimension, but then also, even though the geometry doesn't exist yet, I'm going to be able to go to the opposite side of the center line and place a full dimension or a diametral dimension. So if we come back, we have radial, we go across, we have diametral, half dimension, full dimension. So my full dimension is 140, and that pulls it in, and in the process all of that stack up would give me the 40 for the size, but I do have to make sure that that is also going to end up symmetrical. So the 20 back, the 90 minus 140 would be 50 to the inside edge. We have those in place. So I'm going to switch over to the circle, and I'm not worried about the center circle just yet. This circle in the middle, I'm going to perform a mirror, and I don't really want that center to mirror back onto itself. Alright, so if it's at the axis of symmetry and there was a circle here, it would basically flip over and I would end up with two circles that it wouldn't cause too many problems, but it would cause a duplicate entity. So, again, not necessarily my preference to have that. So 25 off the edge or 45 from the center. And picking the circles at this point, should be comfortable applying these dimensions and getting a feel for the overall sketching of the geometry. Alright, so this makes sense. This is the only enclosed region, is the circle, and since this is left open prior to performing the mirror, we're not going to have that shaded region. Alright, so I do not want to include, or don't need to include, the... Oh, actually I do need to include. I was thinking of doing the window pick from left to right. Does not include, but I do want to include, so we're going to go right to left, which is the crossing, and when I go into mirror, it's just going to perform the mirror. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit undo so we can look at the other options, other styles. Alright, so if I don't pick anything, and we just go into mirror entities, then I would want to pick from left to right, so I just get my objects, and then the line to mirror about is the construction line, and then that shows me the result. Okay, and if I were to pre-select the objects without the center line, then I would go into mirror entities and I would have a mirror about on the center line, and it would also show me the preview. We always want to copy. If I uncheck the copy, I'm going to lose all of my dimensions. Right, so something happened, I needed the reverse, I would consider making this construction geometry. I would consider some other technique as opposed to unchecking copy. But there are places once or twice, and I think I've unchecked the copy and had a desired result. So once we hit OK, and then I'm going to end up with this geometry, and my choices are to drop a step, but I want to see if I can remove a relation. So if I pick, I'm going to see the symmetry between those 2 points, and then if I pick, I'm going to see if I can break the symmetry at that point. Alright, so that's going to allow it to move, and because there's not a horizontal vertical on that geometry, then it's going to have those the ability to move in that angle. Same when I remove the symmetry here. Alright, so that breaks the symmetry in those points, and I'm going to need to go back and manually add vertical, manually add a vertical, and manually add a horizontal. Now I can put in a dimension of 50 and end up with a desired result. So in sketching this, going through this process, I don't know that that was the most efficient way, but it does illustrate that you can manage your relations, that if you're thinking in terms of those relations and willing to kind of deal with the result, as I mentioned, I could also just run that little sketch, left that corner there, and then when I pick the region, I would be picking this interior region and leaving that one out. That would also be an option. Alright, so let's now put the center circle in. It is coincident to my vertical center line, and I need it to be horizontal. So the center points, select, control, select the center points, and that goes horizontal. I'm going to select the circle and control select the next circle and make those equal, and now I have the desired geometry. And this is going to be a thickness of 15 millimeters. So extrude cut, we'll type in the 15 and accept. Make sure to save it.